Thank you so much for joining in. We all are gathered here to touch upon a very hot booming topic and talk about Bharat Bill Payment System here. Before we jump into the conversation and what's the agenda of it, I would like to introduce our esteemed guests on the panel. We have Noopur Chaturvedi, who's the CEO for NPCI Bharat BillPay, alongside with Reeju Datta, who's the co-founder of Cashfree Payments. Welcome to the discussion team.
Yeah, actually, thanks for having me, and hi, Noopur, thanks for joining us as well. I think we've interacted in the past, and I think we were there when in Dubai. I think you gave a like a long introduction. I think on Bharat BillPay. So yeah, I think we thought that we'll kind of hear that again, like for the larger audience as well. And yeah, I think that was our plan. So yeah, thanks for joining us as well.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Reeju. And I'm glad that the presentation in Dubai resonated with you. And thanks for joining in as a partner. We'll talk more about it as we move forward.
Perfect. So I think, I just wanted to first, before we go into the agenda of the conversation, right? So BBPS is one of the most, sought after payment options right now, right? And India is becoming the digital payments leader in the world. And there are a lot of world-class innovations happening with Bharat BillPay and then UPI AutoPay and eNACH, right? So, we have been tracking BBPS and its progress for a while now at Cashfree Payments as well. And, looking into the statistics, they are amazing, right? In the last quarter itself, from October to December 2023, 367 million transactions happened on the BBPS network. And this growth has been happening at accumulated annual growth rate of 73% from, say, 2017 to 2022, 2023, right? So if, let's say, for the conversation of our audience, right, if we have to associate Bharat BillPay, right, to the most common interaction, each and every one of us have done our utility bill payments either via credit card or via UPI, and that's the primary interface that most of us have identified or had a touch point with Bharat Bill Payment System. So let's say moving away from, say, waiting in lines to offline payments to and doing it at the collection centers to doing it anytime, anywhere at the ease of the end consumer, it has happened because of Bharat Bill Payment System. So Noopur, I had a quick first question with you. And we saw that these categories have expanded, right? Where Bharat BillPay has evolved outside of just utility payments to many more categories for different businesses out there. So how do you envision the adoption of these newer categories, and let's say for businesses like education ERPs, for lenders, and for insurance providers?
Yeah, thanks, Sakshi. And you shared some of the numbers. There's just probably one number I would want to share with you. We got registered as a separate entity called NPCI Bharat Bill Payment, which is a subsidiary of NPCI, in December of 2020. And in that month, we had processed roughly around 25 million transactions, right? So we celebrated our third foundation day last December in 23. And in that month, we processed 125 million transactions. So we've seen a 5x growth over the last 3 years, which I'm extremely proud about. And you talked about some of the categories. Yes, we've been extremely fortunate that we kept going back to the regulator asking for categories to be increased. And 1 year back, in one of the monetary policy announcement, the RBI governor actually said that the scope of BBPS will not be restricted by categories anymore. So whether it is a voucher that needs to be collected in form of maybe a challan of your traffic, or it can be an account receivable to be collected between two businesses. We now have the approval to go to as many categories where BBPS makes sense. However, you talked about three categories. So let me just give you some examples there. When COVID hit, a lot of lenders did not know how to collect, right? Because they were not able to put in PDCs, they were not able to collect cash, they were not able to meet the people they had given loans to. And overnight on BBPS, we onboarded around 100 lenders who came to us saying, with a single connection, we understand that you will be able to connect us with all the banks and all the consumer tech apps.
Yeah.
And since COVID hit, the lending category itself has been doubling every year. And we currently work with only 350 odd NBFCs. There are so many who need to be brought on. If I talk about alone, that category over the last 1 year has seen 100x growth.
Yes.
And there are a dozen other, insurance companies who need to be talked to and brought onto BBPS. And where, schools and colleges are concerned, it's just a matter of time. But the systems are so dated, someone needs to go out there, talk to them, tell them the advantages, and then bring them onto BBPS. So, I mean, as a B2B company, we are dependent on our ecosystem partners like Cashfree and others to actually do the GTM for us, to talk to the billers and different kind of entities for us. And we can only grow as much as the ecosystem support that we receive.
Absolutely, Noopur. In fact, that is a very interesting insight that you covered specifically on the lending ecosystem, right? So doubling on these points, right? And you mentioned that how evangelism is exceptionally important for the done by the ecosystem partners, right? So we are aware, right? And we have been closely working on BBPS as a network, as a platform, right? And how BBPS goes ahead and offers, say, 150 plus digital channels and 35 lakh plus offline touch points, right? With 12 plus payment modes to the end customer, to have each and every omni-channel touch point out there in the market to make a payment to any of the end businesses, which is getting onboarded as a biller, right? So here, one other question to Reeju, right? How do you businesses are, and why do you think businesses are more attracted towards choosing, say, BBPS as a part of their primary infrastructure for their digital collections?
Yeah, so I think it's I would say it's the reach, right? As in, as a business, you always want to maximize or fasten your collection process, right? Whether you're a lender or someone who's collecting rent. And I think BBPS offers that unparalleled reach, by putting you across, these all the customer touch points that are there. So you could, list on all the popular apps, and make it very easy for the consumer, to pay if they have an intent to pay, right? And so, yeah, I think so. You have your, it's an omni-channel experience, as you said, right? You have your website, right, and then you have the reach through the apps that you can, get paid through, and you have additional, I think, innovations that are coming, and you can, send reminders as well, right? And which is something we also enable, right? And you can just remind people when the time is right that a bill is due. So I think the value proposition is faster collections, I think, for businesses, right? And it works on UPI and every other payment mode. Yeah.
Well, quite true, Reeju. In fact, we have been brainstorming on this thought process, right? That, for example, compliance is also a very inbuilt thing with BBPS, right? And let's say with categories like, say, loan repayments, right? Or loan EMIs, where with digital lending guidelines coming in, it becomes more and more important to be clear and very compliant with the entire ecosystem and enable that journey for the end consumer seamlessly. So, Noopur, what is your take on the agility of BBPS, let's say, for any of the current and, let's say, potential compliances and regulations that might come across the categories so that the businesses remain unaffected?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question, Akshay. See, as a platform that was envisioned by RBI itself, I think compliance is both in our DNA and in our design. So where our system itself is concerned, I think being compliant to any guideline that comes from the regulator is a matter of hours, if not days. And to that extent, we've been in multiple phases where there has been some ask onto the platform to turn off certain payment modes or certain billers or certain OYOs, which has happened recently. And the readiness from our perspective is very, very easy. However, something that I worry about every now and then is that agility across the network, across the entire ecosystem. And that's where I'm not too sure, right? It is simple for me to possibly turn off a payment mode or a biller, etc. But it is equally important that the entire ecosystem, be it on the customer side or on the BOU side, is able to absorb that change and make it quickly enough, right? And which is why, it is so important to work with various technology partners so that they are able to equally, in an agile manner, in a nimble manner, able to take our design or our compliance changes to the market. Otherwise, it takes typically a very long time. If I bring in the biller, which has been asked by, by some of the important stakeholders, to be able to show that biller across all 1,500 channels does not happen immediately. Similarly, if there's a moratorium put on a bank, I can switch it off immediately, but to disable it from many becomes a challenge, and which is, a technology partner who understands BBPS well, who understands the partner's system, is able to enable that change very quickly, is equally important for us.
No, very well said, Noopur. I think, we are on the same page with respect to making this system more and more, supportive and secure. Reeju, you want to add more points into how, let's say, biller aggregators like Cashfree, BBPS, biller solution are in alignment with this vision?
Yeah, I think compliance-wise, we would always, want to be aligned. I think the way BBPS is designed, to be honest, I think it's easy to comply with, I would say. Noopur has mentioned the challenges, but I think since it's a very well-designed system, designed platform, I think compliance really, gets taken care of. Digital lending guidelines is maybe one example. Right. But I think for us, like as aggregators, right, or people that or companies that work with billers, I think we focus on the ease of onboarding, I would say, right. Like I think like maybe make it easy to integrate, good customer support, right, and ensure that the product works, and then it works at scale as well, right? That's kind of what we try to do across all the products, and Bharat BillPay is maybe no exception. So yeah, I think the focus has been on really quick onboarding at this point of time, especially for small mid-sized businesses, right, and then really cut down the turnaround time, right, work parallelly. Like I think there is the documentation process, and then there is the technical integration process, right? So I think we try to do those in parallel, versus sequentially, and that kind of really gives us like an SLA of maybe 2 to 3 weeks, like not more than 20 days, to get billers up live, right? So I think that is what we focus on, right? Compliance is key. As an aggregator, I think we ensure that our systems are properly compliant. Right, and I think working with BBPS isn't that hard because it's a very well-designed platform, and you just plug in yourself at the right place, and it usually tends to be compliant. I think the team at Bharat BillPay has done the job, I think, for us.
Thank you, Reeju. Thank you for your insights. Noopur, one other question for you particularly, right? So about we have been talking about how BBPS can be more and more seamless for businesses out there, right? So, with respect to making it more and more accessible, apart from say the P2B payments, right? You start off this conversation, you covered about the B2B payments ecosystem, right? So, would it be possible for you to throw some light on what's the vision in that regard? Where are we heading after the launch of B2B payments category on BBPS? What's the direction there?
Actually, the vision is audacious, but it will take a lot of partners, a lot of work to make it become a reality. We've already started certain POCs in a small way, where we're saying that can we ease the account receivable problem for businesses, right? So that's the initial thought process. However, we are building a lot of ancillary services around those. Some that we are building, some others that our partners are building. Cashfree is part of the POC that we've started doing, where we're saying that some of the research says that almost 40 to 60% of small and medium founders' time gets spent in either chasing his payments or then reconciling whether what he received is correct, not correct, which account has he received in, so on and so forth, right? If we free away some of that time so that these founders can focus more on their own business growth, the core business and business development, then I think we will free away a lot of time for them and ease their way of doing business. So with that aspiration, we are now headed towards the B2B solution. There are almost 60 million plus businesses that are registered. We are trying to see if their receivables problem, the collection reminder problem, as well as the recon problem can be solved using the BBPS platform. I'm hesitant to use the word BBPS again and again because we are also working in renaming that platform, but more about it later. But really, the aspiration is to unlock the working capital so that the collection becomes simpler and unlock the time which is currently getting wasted in the collections from various partners.
Understood, Noopur. I think very interesting, and we have been following the strategy when it comes to B2B payments, and we are also very bullish on the fact that this is going to grow multi-x forward as well. One other observation that I've been reading into, right? So a lot of P2G payments are also a workflow, right, that BBPS is working on. So would you want to touch upon, how are you envisioning the whole peer to government payment workflows via BBPS? Noopur, you are on mute in case.
Yeah. So on the P2G payment specifically, Akshay, all the government systems are at various stages of evaluation where their digital journeys are concerned. So from some of the utility companies like Tata Power, who are right up there in their digital journey, we also need to work with municipals who may currently be just storing their data on Excels, right? And therefore, there's a huge gamut of different businesses, be it in size or their ERP systems or the data availability that need to be catered to. Now, can BBPS or my small team of 100, 150 odd people do it? The answer is no. We are therefore reliant on a lot of technology service partners, a lot of OUs and AIs and other partners to actually take the solutions to the market and solve for a particular category, right? So when they solve for education, that is very different from a solution that is required by, let's say, a traffic challan, and so on and so forth. So it is really one biller at a time. And like I keep saying, we will grow as our ecosystem partners grow, and more and more well-wishers like Cashfree join us in digitizing a lot of these government setups, so as to say, and bringing them on to BBPS.
Thank you so much, Noopur, for that. And I think that is the plan, that is the vision, that is our commitment as Cashfree as well. Quickly now, I think, we have spoken about the impact and the viability of BBPS, right? And all of us are, alongside with our attendees, are on the same page that it's exceptionally high, right? But with the newer categories and more businesses types getting onboarded, there's always a question of adoption, that how we want as ecosystem partners, as even Bharat BillPay, we want to promote more and more adoption of this. So there's one question here for Reeju, that how do you think businesses can leverage BBPS as a network more easily?
More easily, I would say, I mean, but yeah, I think beyond that, yeah, I think since a lot of the categories have started opening up, 2-3 years back, we were, I think, there were much fewer categories that were maybe there on BBPS. But today, I think, that number has really gone way up. I think how they can leverage is, I think, be aware of, how BBPS can actually fasten election cycle. I mean, as we were discussing, right, the reach is unparalleled. You may or may not be opening your app and push a payment, but if not, I mean, you will probably get a WhatsApp, WhatsApp link sent, right? We allow that, right? Like, you can send payment reminders directly onto WhatsApp, right? So I mean, you can't really, like, miss a payment as a biller. So I think that is something that is new, and I think we are very excited about that in particular. Right. And yeah, I think overall we have seen businesses. I think we've worked with lenders, we've worked with companies, and maybe in the rental space. Right. And yeah, I think even in government, I think we have seen very strong interest. Right. Like as an aggregator, when we go and pitch, I think BBPS always comes up as part of the discussion. So in the segments that Bharat BillPay has opened up, I think we've already seen a very, very strong interest from billers, right? And I think that must be from the word of mouth that has been generated, in terms of the usage. So I mean, omni-channel collections we have seen even in e-commerce, I think has worked well. Right. So there's no reason I think it won't work in other categories, non-retail payments and bill payments.
Makes sense, Reeju. In fact, would you want to share some experience in terms of, say, the categories, right? Because Cashfree has also been working as a biller aggregator for a while now, right? And we have been onboarding a lot of billers across categories. Do you want to touch upon, let's say, what are the categories where the new interest is something that we have seen originating more and more, and our vision in terms of furthering that adoption for these specific categories?
Sure. Yeah. I think Noopur can maybe also chime in. She would probably be a better person. But I think for us, I mean, we've seen like microfinance institutions, for instance, where you have agents maybe that collect payments, and something that was originally done using cash, is kind of going digital, and microfinance institutions are using Bharat BillPay for reconciliations. Then maybe you have I think saving plans, gold saving schemes, right? That is, I think, something interesting. Something like a recurring deposit. Housing societies and rent payments, right? Apartments, right? And when you say rent payments, I think we're kind of getting beyond apartments into even the modern ones like the co-living spaces or the PGs or the student housing ones, right? That's really exciting and that's really new. Donations, I think, is also something that is there, right? And I think insurance, education, we've touched upon. Lending, we've already touched upon, right? Credit card bill payments is, I think, pretty new. And yeah, I think Noopur can maybe also help us, there, what's the plan, and, if there are any other categories, I guess.
Yeah, I think the one left is our favorite B2B, Reeju. Outside of that, we covered everything.
Great.
Perfect. I think, one problem that, the observation is also that talking about the evangelism on BBPS, right? So we at Cashfree are also particularly very committed towards evangelizing the access to BBPS and making it more and more accessible to businesses out there. So a lot of, effort has been gone in terms of making that enablement easier and faster for businesses out there. But Noopur, your final thoughts in terms of, let's say, 2023 was a big year for BBPS, right? New biller categories were introduced, a number of transactions, insane number of transactions happened, and they were at an all-time high. And some of the great features, let's say, like voice-based payments or WhatsApp payments, everything has been unveiled, right? So can you give us a quick preview in terms of what is in for BBPS in 2024?
Actually, a lot isn't far in 24. We're at a point where we have prepared and readied our system for two things. One is scale. So we are already on a billion a day architecture, which means we can support almost 25,000 TPS. So there's readiness for scale. There's also readiness from the regulator because they have expanded the category scope. BBPS, there's also readiness in terms of acceptance of BBPS. And I think the value that we bring to the table through a single integration is now slowly getting registered. Recently, there was a biller, I will not name the biller, but for a temporary period, switched off BBPS, and suddenly they started receiving a lot of customer complaints because the customers were not able to access that biller so readily. So, the groundwork has been done. However, 2024 will be the year where we lay down the foundation for the next decade. And that will happen through many other participants joining us. And many such conversations are happening for fintech, startups, smaller and bigger companies alike, joining us as technology service providers or biller aggregators so that they can innovate on top of BBPS. There's also, the entire rebranding of BBPS that we are thinking of doing. So that, people are able to connect with what we do much more. Currently, there's confusion around, do we payments, are we an app? A lot of folks and customers who use us don't even know us. So just, rebranding, repositioning, and creating that awareness is also an important task that we intend to do in 2024. And of course, my entire team is only focused on reduction of friction and innovation that we can do across the board to help people, be it billers or OUs or TSPs, to connect with us much, much faster. So these are, some of the foundational work that will keep us busy in 2024.
That is exciting, Noopur, and I think we are equally excited to be contributing to it. Reeju, you want to touch upon what is our plan for 2024?
Yeah, I think for us it is to onboard billers in the newer categories, right, that we've discussed. That's pretty much the plan. I think and maybe understand more of the problems that billers have, as we kind of get into the BBPS ecosystem more aggressively. Right. Yeah. Apart from that, we want to congratulate Noopur. I think Noopur and her team have done a tremendous job, and I think there's a great vision. I think that we saw, and yeah, I think it's built like a platform, and it allows a lot of system participants to join in and innovate on top of it. So I think maybe the time of innovations is probably maybe just starting off, right? And I think there are a lot of opportunities, right? And I think the idea would be to get entrenched into the ecosystem, and be a core part of it, right? And yeah, that's the plan for us.
Thank you so much, Reeju. So I think we are towards the end of it. But before we wrap the conversation up, we have a couple of questions from our audience here. One question that Noopur is for you, right? So with respect to microfinance institutions, right? They have been getting onboarded on BBPS, and how the need of a more interoperable system is there with respect to specifically microfinance institutions, right? Our audience wants to know that, okay, what has been the trend in terms of how MFIs are adopting BBPS? How or what are the more innovations that we're doing particularly specific to, say, the rural India, right, where the penetration is still happening, the digital payments are still transcending. How are we making that movement from cash to digital happen for MFIs as a use case?
Yeah, so surprisingly, in lending, some of the biggest volumes that are coming in today are from MFIs. Having said which, I think there are two things that we need to do to really enable the MFIs for collections. One is integrate the APS. If we are able to allow for biometric-based bill payment, or the EMI payment on the systems, I think that can ease a lot of repayments. The other thing is that we have to appreciate that the collection cost of MFIs cannot be the same as collection cost of the bigger banks and lenders, and the commercials need to be corrected and make lesser for the ecosystem, because the frequency of collection is high. So unlike home loan EMI that we would pay only once a month, the MFIs, especially the JLGs, collect the part EMIs multiple times in the month, and therefore the commercials need to account for that. So once we work on these two, I think MFIs can be unlocked for BBPS.
Understood. Thank you so much, Noopur, for your answer. One question is there for Reeju here, that one of our attendees is asking that, how can is it a possibility to onboard a NGO on BBPS to collect donations at the moment?
Yeah, I think they can sign up with us, right? And we can get that started, I would assume.
Got it. Perfect.
Yeah, we can share the landing page maybe.
Thank you so much, Noopur, for joining in. Thank you so much, Reeju. It was a pleasure hosting you for this conversation, and we hope that we're able to touch upon more and more into progress on BBPS, what's happening, and evangelize more and more word about businesses, about BBPS for businesses. So this infrastructure, which is so beautifully well designed, could be more and more accessible to all the businesses out there in India.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Archie, for having me, and Reeju. I'm sure it was your thought, so thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all our attendees for joining in.